Good evening, everybody. I'm viewing my yearly report on 1900. Here are my references, and here are the highly influential 1900 event. I'm actually going to focus on only one event, which is known as in English, the Paris Expedition. I'd say in French, but I don't have the best pronunciation, so I will not. Basically, it started with their emperor. It started in 1855, and it was to promote French commerce, technology, and culture. The really awesome thing is they actually invited several other countries to actually participate and show off as well too. And it's just a great meeting of the minds. You know, basically a Sloan on steroids. The exposition in 1900. 56 countries are invited. However, unfortunately, 2/3 only showed up. About 40 countries accepted. Where this was bad, this actually affected finances. So they actually ended up having to overcharge on tickets to get people to come in. But still, it was an estimated about over 5 million people actually showed up and came to France, Paris, if you will, to see all of this. There's actually some really cool names, such as the Palace of Electricity and Water Castle, Palace of Optics, Aquarium, and Motion Pictures. These were legit the names of the places. They also had national colonial pavilions, inventions such as the Ferris wheel, talking films, moving sidewalks. These were all things that were on display at the exposition. Actually, if you want a really good book to read, you want to read The Devil in the White City. It actually talks about the Chicago World Fair, which is a movement that came in on after the Paris to help with the United States. And actually, it's a great story about Chicago beating New York, and then also another side story about the man that is considered America's first serial killer. So anyways, but the going back to art, if you will, this exposition was probably the highlight and what helped popularize the Art Nouveau, my apologies, I'm sorry, movement. New art. Some of the things from the exposition, that's actually was the cover page and what they put out for the exposition. Here you can see how it took over the city, basically. It legitimately did. The nice thing about most of the expositions, it was meant to be torn down afterwards. But there's a lot of stuff that still ended up staying. Just to kind of go back on a review of what Art Nouveau is, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce. It's just basically it's that free-flowing, still a bit of a realism, movements that you see. It's actually, I think, very beautiful. And I love how, and you mainly saw it in architecture, glass, ceramics, jewelry. It wasn't, there was definitely some art, as you saw from like the posters, like what we think like paintings and stuff. But for the most part, it was actually heavy in architecture, like stuff that you could actually bring home and put into your home versus having to go somewhere and look at it, or part of your city, if you will. So you could actually see it for free. At the exposition, like I said, oh, excuse me, I said 5 million, meant 50 million. But they saw a mixture of Art Nouveau and Beaux Arts, excuse me. It was the first international showcase for the art. There's a lot of winners and participants. One of my favorites is, like, this was actually, if you look right here, Tiffany company, what we know is like the Tiffany jewelry. That's where they did their first exhibition at. And actually, another side note, Campbell showed off their advertising for the first time at this place as well. Another one, an actual member of the jury, a voter, a judge, if you will, actually voted his own apartment as a winner because he had a glass bathtub. So really great, awesome thing. Like I said before, you really should read the book Devil in the White City, and how it talks about the different architectures, like things where you didn't even know how history gets in. Like that's where Pabst Blue Ribbon, the beer, won. And like the famous blue ribbon was from the Chicago World's Fair. The electric chair. So, but I mean, like I said, for other events happening, it was actually the turn of the century. That's always a popular thing. The Olympics were happening in Paris. Paris was basically the place to be. So as you see, some of the different Art Nouveaux, like we got the infamous or famous beautiful Tiffany lamp, some posters, This was actually wallpaper. And then to the train station. This is also the train station. This was actually the entrance to the Paris exhibit in 1900. And it's just beautiful. And some of this stuff, like, actually still, a lot of it actually stands today, especially architectural stuff. So that's about what I have a discussion. But as far as this Art Nouveau, it actually did flow in. You see the Impressionism, Cubanism, modern art, if you will, is what came off of from the Art Nouveau. Anyways, I hope all is well, and I hope you all have a good evening. Thank you. Bye.